So I move around. So I'll start by telling you a little bit about Lonely Planet and about myself, and then I'll go into the core of the presentation, where I want to share a few lessons of Lonely Planet's kind of digital transformation. So this is Tony and Maureen Wheeler. These guys are the founders of Lonely Planet. This is 40 years ago, almost 40 years ago, and this is a beach in Western Australia called Exmouth. These guys have been traveling for months from London, and they managed to catch a ride on a sailboat from Bali, and they landed in Western Australia. They then put together a bit of money they had together, they worked a bit, and they managed to make it to Perth, and then eventually they crossed over to Sydney, got a job. And when they started sharing the story of what they did, everyone kept telling them, you should write about it, you should write about it, the journey you did was amazing. So they did. So they wrote a story. They printed 1,500 copies, and they sold them all, and that funded the next trip for them. So they did it again, and then they came back, and they wrote another one, and they sold it again. And pretty much for the first 10 years of Lonely Planet's history, that's all they did. And I guess I'm sharing this with you just to share a little bit more the essence of LP. I guess I work for Lonely Planet for exactly the same reason. One is because I like encouraging people to travel, but two, because I fund my next trip. That's why I do it. Right. So here's something else that I wanted to share with you, again, just to finally cap and explain to you Lonely Planet and its essence. And it's amazing that we actually have something to show you that really captures LP. How many of you noticed the error in here? Hands up. God, not that many. Wow. Oh, now you're looking, aren't you? Yeah. Can you see Western on the spine? It's missing the R. We printed 40,000 copies of this. It came back to the warehouse, and what you see on the left is the story, and I tell you, so the warehouse guy sits there, picks up the first copy, and calls out to the other guy in the warehouse, how do you spell Western? And the other guy goes, W-E-S-T-I-E-R-N. There's an R in it. And the other guy goes, yeah, sure. I think someone screwed up. That copy, of course, made it all the way up to the publisher. The publisher picks it up, calls his team, goes, holy hell, what's this? I think we made a really big mistake, and there's 40,000 copies downstairs. What are we going to do? So they start having a chat until at the end, they talk about putting a sticker on it, and they go, no, it's too noticeable. People are going to think that we're so dumb, and people are going to peel it off, and we pulp it, and no, poor trees, why would we do that? And so eventually Tony Wheeler, the founder, said, why don't we make it into a bookmark and share it with people? So at least, we own up to the error, and we give them something useful. And that's what that bookmark is on you actually can't see my fingers, but I'm actually holding up. That's a bookmark. And to tell you, to actually show you that's true, I've got the book here. So if you want to come and have a look later, you can actually, it's a expensive copy of this book. It's not that many around anymore. But anyway, so that captures, it's really interesting that it captures the essence of Lonely Planet really well. This is a little bit about me. This is, I wanted to tell you something about me, so I went back to the records. I worked for Lonely Planet for 10 years. And I went back to my original documentation of employment in Lonely Planet, and I found the cover kind of sheet of the document. And you don't need to read this. It's not about reading with the detail, but it's just to have a look at how many red arrows versus how many green arrows there are there. And actually, there is one green arrow missing there. I don't know why at the very bottom. I've got 2 things right and all the rest wrong. So, at the top it says, design skills, none. Design experience, none. Project management skills, none. Cartography skills, none. Cartography experience, none. Folio, yes, he has one. But then at the bottom, there's a little writing on the side. You can see that it says, it looks like someone in his family did it for him. So, literally, so here I am. I only found this out now. When I started Lonely Planet, I actually thought I was really cool. And yeah, I got the job, I'm awesome. And, telling my parents, yeah, I'm amazing, rah, rah, rah. I only found out 10 years later that the little confidence they had in me actually when they employed me. But anyway, the 2 things that I got right was travel experience, yes. And at the bottom it said enthusiastic. So the only thing I had was that I was an enthusiastic traveler. Go figure, there you go. So this is a little about myself. For 10 years, I've been very enthusiastic, obviously, about the transformation of this. I'm quite young, so I've started in a company where I was perplexed by a lot of things that were taking place. I remember working for Lonely Planet at the very beginning, asking millions of questions about why we were so slow, and And, why are we publishing things that are like 2 years old to people that need it on the spot? And, all these things kept buzzing around my head until eventually I got the job that I got today, and I'm leading quite a large team in the transformation of Lonely Planet actually into this new world. So anyway, there's a bit of that. So let's get into it. Oh, well, there's a picture of me there. Oh, I put this picture on my CV, actually. It's interesting. And I reckon that got me the job. I was in the Andes there. It was minus 15. I spent most of the night trying to build a fire. So it was so cold. I saved myself $2 in the camping ground. I didn't go to the camping ground. I went just up a little creek. And my trick back then, I think this probably also got me the job, my trick was I used to travel with no money. So my biggest trip was 17,000 kilometers around Latin America with 17 pesos or something like that, which was pretty good. Anyway, so let's get into the core of it. So, oh gosh, the ratio is not all that good. But this is a graph that we got one of our guys at Lonely Planet to build for us. This information doesn't exist in one place altogether, but he kind of pulled it together. Oh, that's better. Kind of pulled it together for us. And what this shows you in a way is obviously the book business, being quite large over the years. We then start seeing the fragmentation of publishing as that has started only a few years ago and it's now really expanding, and the prediction of it in terms of how it's going to go. You see the ebooks and apps and book apps, I guess, and we're thinking of HTML5 and so forth. And I guess Lonely Planet's digital kind of transformation or journey started probably in 1994 or so, when Alan Noren, many of you guys know from O'Reilly, walked into the US office of Lonely Planet in San Francisco with he told me it's a Graphon computer or something along those lines. Anyway, this is probably, I was still at school, I reckon then. But anyway, walked in with a computer, with a modem, sits down, plugs it in, and shows for the first time this guy is the internet. This is back when O'Reilly used to keep track of how many websites there were in the world. Wow. So 200 apparently there were back then. So they walked in, Lonely Planet, and they showed this is the internet, you guys should have a website. And Alan built the first website for this. So it's amazing how we have a connection all the way back then. This guy's, Tim O'Reilly, was blogging with Tony and Maureen back in 95 when Tony and Maureen were traveling with the kids across America. An unbelievable journey in terms of transformation. But even though we've been going on for that long, and in fact over the last 15 years or so, we've had quite a number of attempts at transforming and at really unleashing the content asset that we have and really becoming truly agnostic to all the mediums and so forth. You can see the blue is so big that really all our machines, all our systems, all our processes, all our structures, all our roles, everything are actually geared towards books. They're not geared towards the other stuff. So we struggle. So we're now having another attempt, it's been happening for the last 12 months, which I'm sure I'll share with you in another conference. But what I'll do is I'll share with you 3 lessons from having gone back to all those previous attempts that we failed and what's working for us now. So this is Lonely Planet's product range, and you can see in there, we understand the travel cycle quite well. We've got products in all the different parts of traveling, in dreaming, in planning, in buying. We got a TV company, we got an image library, we got books, apps, ebooks, Thorntree community, websites, all sorts of stuff. So when you look at this, you go, well, these guys really know what they're doing. The truth is, we actually don't know what we're doing all that well. But we know why we do it. There's my family at the back. So I wanted to show you those images, and they didn't come up as beautiful as they do on my Mac. But the truth is that we actually don't know what we're doing. And probably like many of you, the only thing we know really what we're doing is with books. We've been doing it for 40 years. So the rest it's a bit of a gamble and a trial and error, and we kind of put things out and check them out. But I guess the reason why I'm sharing that is I wanted to give you guys I guess lesson number 1, which is in these times of change, I guess as the markets continue to move, as fragmentation continues, as new entrants come in, we need to really, really, really make sure that you don't forget why you do the things that you do. It's the only thing that is going to give you a guiding path. If not, you're going to always struggle with, every little shiny new thing you're going to go and try, and you forget why you do it. So Lonely Planet does it because when you travel, you step away from the routine, from your normal day. And by default, probably, and God, I'm not even an expert at this, but I'll tell you my theory at least. It goes back to the real, caveman ages where you're literally stepping away from the territory that you know, and by default, all your senses become really alive. So the food tastes better, and the skies are bigger, and everything becomes amazing when you travel. So that's why we do it. Lonely Planet doesn't because we want to look at this guy called Ben. He works for Lonely Planet. He's checking on a book, and it's not about the book either in this picture. It's actually not about the book. It's about what's around him, what the next thing he's going to go and do, and what is the next thing he's going to discover and how he's going to experience it. So Lonely Planet creates this amazing connection with travelers, and that's exactly why we do what we do. So again, lesson number 1 is don't get too worried about the what. That will emerge naturally if you keep focusing on why you do what you do. Times have changed, really crazy, so stick to why you do it. Lesson number 2. Let me explain the analogy first just to make sure that everyone understands, and then I'll look back to it. This is a picture of a water hole, and I guess there's some sheep down there, I think, or cows, and it shows the different paths. So here's the analogy. So, naturally cows or animals will find their way towards water. And that just happens because one picks a particular path and the other ones follow it, and then different, natural circumstances changes the path, and they go through a different way, and they get to the water. If you had a consultant coming in, we'll say your cows will be cleaner if you concrete this pathway, and they'll go faster, and they'll come back, and they'll give you more milk, and so forth. So if you go ahead and concrete this, and you end up, some of the cows die, and you get new cows, or the water hole changes position, or there's some natural disaster, or something happens, you have to build new ones. So the important part, I guess, and this the analogy compared to business is saying, well, if you go and concrete everything you do, and you get a new CEO, or the customer shifts the expectation, or something happens, you'll struggle to do much with it afterwards. So I'll come back to the analogy in a second. Let me just show you this. This is a Gutenberg Bible. Lots of people have been talking about it. Here's our book. That's how freakishly scary it is, the stability we've had. So look at this, 500 years, and yay, Lonely Planet. We're very ahead. So the scary thing about it, and when I talk about the transformation of Lonely Planet, is that we're not only facing 36 years of legacy, but we're actually facing 500 years of legacy. The tools that we're developing, that we're using today in publishing books, are tools that have wisdom of 500 years, not just the last 30 or 20 or whatever. Products, that we use, all of us, like InDesign, are products that have long legacy. 500 years, we've known how to make books for a long time. And even so, we still make books that look exactly the same, which is amazing. That stability, it's totally gone out the window. So when I was talking to you guys before about how big books was and how all the machines are made for that, that's what we're good for. We're good at making that, yeah? So this is when I tip my hat to the conference, to the theme of the conference. This is, hang on, let's go back. Let's go forward. Oh my God, the back clicking. There we go. That doesn't look too good. It looks very dark. Anyway, so this is a picture of the Berlin Wall. So yeah, boundaries, borders are coming down. We need to understand as publishers that this is happening. We've reached the kind of the boundaries of print publishing, and now we're venturing beyond those. And as we do it, concrete is evil. And this is where I look back to the analogy. Don't concrete anything. Once you break it down, because the thing is, we have concreted everything because we've had such stability for so long. The issue is that as we now go, and especially with my team at Lonely Planet, I'm picking and breaking all the bits and pieces, and not being able to use InDesign because we're doing ebooks, and not being able to do this because we're doing blah, and coming up with a new CMS or a new something else. Every time we do that, we're literally picking up concrete and trying to shift it and move it. And every time we try to convince someone that the book is not the end of everything. And so the lesson number 2, the advice is do not concrete again. At best use gravel, but do not concrete the thing again, because it will keep changing. It will keep changing for the foreseeable future. Okay, lesson number 3. So most of you have a process a workflow to make books that looks a bit like that. So process, book at the end. And it's very linear and it's very long. We take about 15 months to make a book on average. Some companies take 24 more months. This was the thing that 10 years ago when I started Lonely Planet, I just could not believe it. I just couldn't compute. I'm going, what? 15 months to make a book? Is it serious? It's only this little thing. How can it take that long? Anyway, you'll learn eventually why it takes that long. But here it is. Yeah, and then what happens is we end up with these new mediums that come in, and what happens is we end up starting with the book because it's the only place we can start, and then we repurpose that content and go and come up with another process again, and here another team, another silo in the company, and now that's the ebooks team over there, and this is the apps team over here, and print over here. And in Lonely Planet, print is like an entire floor, and then everybody else is kind of in little corners everywhere around the place. And then what you end up with is, I hope I don't upset anyone, you end up with a consultant that comes in and says, I've got your solution. You put a CMS in the middle, you put some arrows to the side, and you sort it. And it's, yes. And 10 years ago, we had to go at this. In fact, we bought a few of these CMS things, thanks to this great industry of CMS people that come and sell you this stuff. And we go, yeah, perfect, sell it to me. What we realized sorry, everyone outside, I know this is a really important industry, but anyway, what we realized outside is that the CMS was actually the smallest part and the simplest of them all. And we bought a few of them and failed at them. In the end, we ended up building our own, and this is what we are in the process at the moment. And it's the smallest part of the change. Bigger than the CMS is actually the way you organize your own content. And there isn't a content organization system, a COS out there to go and buy. Because you can't buy that. That you have to figure out yourself. You know your content better than anybody else. You even can't get a consultant in general because it just doesn't work. You know your content. So I'll tell you a couple of examples of this. But we've been doing surgery on patient Lonely Planet for 12 months now, my team. And we sit there with the patient and we slowly try to, for example, unpick product and content. So, we sit there and explain, right, okay, we sit there with the publisher and we go, no, but I want this to appear in italics. I know you want it to italics, but italics is product, okay? The word with emphasis, a little tag that says emphasis, is content. And then you choose how you want that emphasis to appear, as bold or italics or something else. Okay, but I get italics. Yes, you do. Oh. You get italics at the end, and then you choose your format, however you want, and you pick. But content is, this is this thing here. And, we've got examples of that. The economics of content, we're all struggling with it. We know really well down path. We've got an Excel form that tells you that if you sell this many, you can put this much money into the content. And guess what? If we then add the other mediums, then how much can you invest in it? For example, in our example is geotagging points of interest. So the way we used to geotag them forever is you grab a map and an author goes and checks the place and goes, right, okay, it's in the corner. It's here, bang. That's a geotag of the past. The new analog way of geotagging is you go into, an actual handheld device and you locate me and finds me and geotags me and gives me a lat long. So then you go, right, okay, let's geotag all the points of interest so that every time you're in a mobile device, you know where you are. And it's like, okay, cool. So normally we only geotag in a map way the ones that appear on maps. Not every point of interest in our books appear on maps. Okay, we need to do more. Okay, how many more? Well, like 2,000 more. Okay, who pays for it? Well, it must be the mobile people. Let's go and talk to them. Well, we're not paying for it. We can afford the content. And then you start getting into these battles of, hey, hang on a minute, how do we pay for this content? What's the new economics of content? How much are we going to sell at the end? And because these new mediums are so immature, you can't figure it out. You go and talk to them and go, how many are you going to sell? I don't know. Well, all right. Okay, well, that's not good for us, because it doesn't fit in an Excel spreadsheet to figure it all out, So that's very hard to solve. Content is the taxonomy, the way you organize it. So for example, for us, we need to find a more stable way of organizing ourselves. Organizing your content by product, which is normally what happens. You either have an XML repository or this is again what the CMS can't fix for you because you have to sort yourself out. But you end up with a CMS organized by product, for example. And then again, you organize yourself by product, you end up in a world where you don't know if your latest Paris information or Eiffel Tower is in that product or the other one that you did later or the app. So what we did is we turned on its head and we organized ourselves by destination. And that's perplexing us in a way because it's quite hard. You take away the book metaphor out of the business and all of a sudden you've got nothing to wrap your head around. You just don't know how much content. So, I was driving only a few months ago with one of our authors in Colorado, and he's driving and he's getting towards a town called Fort Collins, and he goes, this place is about 3 or 4 pages. So he even talks in pages. The guys, and I'm saying, what if you didn't have pages? Oh, well, I don't know, how big is your book? What if you didn't have the book? Nothing. How much would you write about this place? Well, I don't know. I don't need to tell me. Well, I don't know. You tell the traveler how worthy is this place of the writing, or the videos or the images that you might catch. So all of a sudden you take away that metaphor and it really plays with people's minds. It's very, very hard. Anyway, so we work on that. So that's much harder than the CMS by a mile. But then the hardest of them all is this one. It dwarfs the other two by a mile. This is where I spend most of my time. And this is on the culture of the place, on the mindset, on the structure of your business. You come up with these fantastic new tools and ways of approaching things and training packs for authors and editors and new ways of working, but you realize that the previous structure that you had, you can't just literally plonk it on top of this new way, because it'll just be the same thing again. So the divides that we're having between print and digital, slowly erasing and disappearing, and that'll have to change very quickly. At the end of the day, publishing is the same. We're still publishing great content across, to solve people's problems and give them great experiences across these different mediums, like Brian said, different containers. So the structure is one big challenge that we have. The mindset, like I was saying to you before, the moment you take the book metaphor away from people, their minds explode. You sit there with a publisher, explain to them about a content desk, which is the new organ that we're trying to create in Lonely Planet, a content desk. And they say, what are these things? What are these guys going to do? Well, they manage content. Well, they're in Word, aren't they? And you just go to the Q drive and find, it's like, well, no. Remember when we talked about italics, it's the same thing, Anyway. So it gets tricky in the culture of the place. You can imagine the culture of the place is very much one of perfectionism, which is actually fantastic in a way, because you do want that in publishing. You want that incredible eye to detail. But unfortunately, these new mediums are pushing us to actually be at least a bit less perfectionistic and a bit more, out there and trying things and failing, and failing is okay. And to a person that in general, tends to craft a book and feel like an author and an editor of this, etc., saying to someone that you can fail and put an app out and it might not work properly, you put it at the wrong price and it comes back and you do it again, and it's a little bit too much. So that's very hard. And funding is also very, very hard, because one of the issues that we have is, as you saw on the graph, the blue bit, which is books, is still very, very large. So you go to the business, which the majority of the business would be the blue bit, and you say, we'd like to get some money to go and start doing this other thing, and because they still have momentum, they look at you and they go, well, do we really need them now? And the problem is, because we tried it over the last 12 years a few times and we failed, there is a degree of cynicism in there where they go, we tried it before and we failed. I'm not sure about this, and we still make money, and why would we do this? No one can ignore the decline, yet everyone talks about the timing of when you do it. So the 3 lessons, just to recap quickly, the first one is make sure you don't forget why you do what you do. That's number 1. Things are changing very quick, and the moment you lose track of what you're doing, of why you're doing what you're doing, you'll be in trouble. Second is the concrete in the cow paths. Make sure you don't concrete them, because concrete is evil. Once you break it down and you start a new way of doing things, remain nimble, because it's going to continue to change. So you need to become very good at that. And number 3, don't underestimate the bigger bubble. Don't underestimate your culture, your structure, and don't underestimate how important that is. So you want to end. You want to start the way you want to end, in a way, yeah? So if you want to end with a fantastic culture and a company that looks, et cetera, well, start that way. Start thinking about that first before you engage a consultant to sell you a CMS, because that's not going to be your solution. Thank you.